Welcome to Mott's Weekend. If you own a car, you're probably just minutes from cursing a blue streak. A report by Professor Emeritus Harry Kitchen, A Case for Increasing Provincial Fuel Taxes, recommends we be forced to dig a little deeper to pay for a much-needed upgrade of our transportation infrastructure. Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
You know this report is not going to make you Mr. Popular.
No, it's not. But on the other hand, I think we have to face up to it. I think it's something we have to do in the province. I've written on road pricing and fuel taxes and a variety of other things for a number of years now, and the recommendation in this report is really the same or very similar to one made in the 2008 report I did and one in another report I did in 2013. And once again, we're back at it.
Okay, let's hear those recommendations yet again.
Well, the interesting thing is the arguments that I've made in the past, and there's a lot of literature on this in Europe and North America, that fuel taxes are a useful way of funding public transit and transportation. This report I took a look at the tax per liter on motor gas and diesel fuel, and it was set at the current rate in 1992. So I said, well, you know what? What happens if we had simply increased that tax rate by the rate of inflation over the past 23 years? If we had, we'd be up to 23 cents per liter now, which is what I recommended. Mm-hmm. And 23 cents, by the way, is just giving you the same purchasing power as we got in 1992. It's not in real terms or purchasing power. It's not increasing the tax rate. It's just bringing it up to the level it was when it was initially set at this rate.
Sure, but if the gas price itself hadn't gone up, then maybe we could swallow that.
Well, that's always going to be the case. I mean, anytime you increase the tax, the price of a service is going to go up. But you know what? We pay it. If you raise income taxes or you raise sales taxes, somebody's going to complain about that. And those inevitably you could argue would lead to higher cost of things. Maybe because labor decides if they have to pay more in taxes, they have to get higher wage rates. So anytime you raise a tax, it seems to me you're going to have an increase in price somewhere. So in this report, the question comes up. I mean, there's a big problem with transportation, congestion, loss in productivity because of congestion, loss in economic activity, particularly in the Greater Toronto Area and the Golden Horseshoe, because of congestion. There have been international studies done by the OECD and others saying that in the Toronto area it's a huge problem. It leads to tremendous loss in economic activity each year. It just seems to be something's got to be done. We've got to improve the system. We somehow have to get some cars off the road, and we got to get more people on the public transit. And one of the ways you do it seems to me, if you raise the gas tax, then you have a chance of saying, okay, that'll lead to a lower level of congestion, less driving. It should lead to, hopefully, would lead to improved public transit and increased use of public transit.
But you've also recommended more toll roads.
Yeah, well, that recommendation has been around for a long time. They're used effectively in a number of countries. It's interesting. I recommended toll roads an increase in fuel taxes. I made these recommendations back in the 2008 report. I got absolutely hammered in the press by lots of angry people. I made the same recommendation, updated in 2013, and there was quite a change in attitudes from 2008 to 2013. I was really surprised at the extent to which more and more people had accepted the notion, you know what, we do have to start paying for the use of this service if we want to have these services. And there was a much greater public acceptance of the notion of paying for the use of a service. And so, public attitudes are changing. People are going to say, what was this? Why were people getting ticked off with this guy Kitchen some years ago when he said this? This just makes sense.
Well, and he's just a glutton for punishment. He keeps coming back and bringing that forward again.
Well, yeah, I guess you. Well, you know what? If you actually believe it makes sense and that it's good public policy, you just keep on pushing it. And at some time, you hope somebody who's in power will say, you know what? Let's move on. Let's get on with it.
Have you looked, though, at the other side of things? Professor Harry Kitchen is on the line with us. He's a road pricing expert from Trent University. And once again, coming back, suggesting that there should be a big increase in gasoline taxes and toll roads as well to pay for all of the things we need. We know, as you said, Professor, we have a big problem in Southern Ontario with congestion. There's no question about that. So we do have to do something about it.
That's right.
But it seems that every time we try to come up with a solution, it's penalizing drivers. And we will hear on open line shows from people who say, you're killing me. Like it kills me as a small business or someone who's in sales that
Well, a lot of people can't afford it. It may
Really?
be necessary, but they just can't afford it.
yeah. So what do you say there?
Well,
Isn't it going to hurt
you know
some
what?
people?
How are we going to pay for this service if we don't charge the drivers? Who else is going to pick up the cost of it? Are you going to charge taxpayers higher income tax, increase the HST? What are you going to do? I mean, it seems to me we're looking at a situation here where we're up against the wall. We've got to generate revenue for improving public transit and transportation. And I think that's generally accepted by everybody. That's even accepted by the people who criticize the notion of paying more for it. They will accept, yes, we have to do something. So I start with this view. How do we fund it? And it seems to me the fairest way to fund it is to say, if you use the service, I think you should pay for the service.
Well, that
Otherwise, we say, let everybody pay for the service, and some people just keep on using it. I mean, everybody says,
We do
it
pay
doesn't
gas
matter how
taxes.
rich or how poor you are. If you charge people more, they'll all tell you they can't afford it. I mean, we hear that all the time. And it is true that some will have trouble. But, we have income transfer programs. The province provides them. Used to called welfare. It's not anymore, but there's income assistance. Canada has a very good Social Security system compared with most countries in the world, particularly at the seniors level. So, we have systems in place to handle those issues of poorness and people not affording it. But it just seems to me that you've got to pay it, and then you got to say, well, how do we do it? Mm-hmm. And my view is let's do it by charging those who use it.
Well, this is a cost that should fall to everyone, not just those who drive, because everyone benefits from things moving on the roads.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
it's like public transit. We just don't charge those who use it. We all kick in for public transit.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, the public transit is interesting. If you take a look in Toronto, particularly, let's just concentrate on the city of Toronto for a moment. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will say, let's just increase public transit fares for public transit. I don't think that's the solution for that. Public transit fares in Toronto actually cover a higher percentage of the operating costs than any other city, basically, in North America. And there's a strong argument for subsidizing the users of public transit systems, primarily because those of us who use our cars and roads don't pay the full cost. We don't pay the full cost of operating. We don't pay environmental costs. We don't pay for any of those things. But transit users are paying the full cost. So in economics, it's called a second-best argument. But basically what it says is you should charge automobile users more and use some of that money to subsidize public transit. And there's a strong argument for that.
Well, the CAA will make an argument against that.
I'm not arguing we should... I'm not arguing we should raise the public transit fees at all. I'm suggesting we raise the price of gas and therefore the price that we impose on the people who use the service.
Mm-hmm. Do you have many friends?
Oh, yeah. It's quite interesting. I sit down at the golf club. You sit and have a beer with the guys after you play golf, and the first thing they'll do is somebody will take a snipe at you. I mean, that's going to happen. It's going to happen tomorrow. And but when you sit and talk just kind of logically about it, you know what they say? You're right.
The
interesting thing is the younger generation buy into this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk to friends of my kids, and one son lives in Toronto, these guys just think this is all common sense. They're always amused by the controversy it stirs up.
Here we are in the midst of the Pan Am Games, and the big debate is about the HOV lanes.
Right.
Do you think they should stay?
Oh, yeah, sure. Do I? Yeah. I think there are a number of people, if I'm reading the press correctly, and the newspaper accounts of it, there are a lot of people in the press, or even saying, and people they've interviewed, saying, we've got them in place, maybe we should just keep them here. And what you could do with those HOV lanes, which is done in some places in the States, you could convert them into what are called HOT lanes, high occupancy toll lanes. And that's the easiest way to implement a toll charge at the moment. I mean, 407, you're tolling all the lanes now. To take 401, it would be expensive. It would take a while to toll all the lanes. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are suggesting, why don't we take these high occupancy vehicle lanes, which are not used all that extensively in a lot of places, and put a toll charge on it. And then if you're a single passenger car and you choose, instead of sitting in those congested lanes, you choose to pay to drive in the HOT line, you can do that. Mm-hmm. And with use of transponders and technology's there to accommodate it now.
Sure.
Oh, but so you have a lane for the rich and others for the poor.
Well, think of it this way. If you get the guys who are rich out of the other lanes, isn't it easier for the poor?
Well, that's true.
Oh, my gosh. You're making an argument that we hear all the time about health care.
I'm not trying to go, oh, God, no, don't get on to that.
No, that's exactly what you're saying.
I've got enough trouble with transportation.
Well, listen, Professor, thank you very much for joining us. You have certainly added a lot.
And good luck at the golf course.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. I need that.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's Professor Harry Kitchen, a road pricing expert from Trent University.